Check, check, check. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All right, so I'm trying to elevate. Uh, that's my handle. Um, and basically, my name's Ryan. Uh, came up with that name because this is the path that I'm on right now and trying to elevate as a father, a son, a husband, and as a Muslim, most importantly. Being Muslim, we always on a constant journey to do better, become better Muslims, right? And in the midst of all of the things that life throw at you, you still have to find a way to dig deep and hold on to the gentleness and that basically the gentleness that Muslims should show, right? Um, and that's very hard to do in certain environments. So um, this is something that's why elevation is such an important thing for me because the environments that I come from are uh, seem to have glass ceiling. You know what I mean? So it's hard to elevate in a lot of these environments. There's always something to pull you back down. So I basically I'm only going live because I feel like even though I don't have a fan base quite yet, I didn't want to go live during the day and have all these people jump in the live and distract me. Because one thing I realized about social media is that it's a place where a lot of people come to be haters. You know what I mean? I never seen so much hate than I see on social media. And that's one of the reasons that I do fear coming onto these platforms, right? So I wrote down a few bullets because just so I can try to keep my points, keep this video concise and hit my points. There's many fears, but I only wanted to talk about three. And I'm not the type of person to talk about fear, to talk about negatives without um meeting that with positives. So my plan is to talk about three fears, even though it's many more, and talk about three hopes, right? And the name of this channel is Between Fear and Hope, which is Islamic concept of how Muslims should live their life. We should always be between fear and hope. Fear that our sins are so great that Allah will punish us, and hope, as much hope as you have fear, to the point where you know how merciful Allah is, and you hope that He will shower you in His mercy, and that you will make it to Jannah. And not just Jannah. We should aspire for the highest level, Jannah Firdaus, which is the highest level of paradise, right? And a lot of times that fear will have us with this mentality of, oh, I just want to get Jenna. If I can just get, even if I get on the bottom level, I'll be good with that. Don't be good with that, brother. Don't be good with that, sister. Aspire for the top, Jennifer Dose. You know what I mean? That's where our prophet gonna be. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't you want to be with the prophet? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I know I do. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you'll hear Muslims say, "Oh, as long as I get to see Allah's face, I'm gonna be. I don't care where I'm at in paradise." Which is, alhamdulillah, that's true. It is going to be such a blessing to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But still always aspire for the top. You know what I mean? If you're going to dream, dream big. So, um, so yeah, my first point was just the simple fact that I'm not from the generation. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a lot older than I look. When I And I remember being in high school, we had got some computers donated to us. These was some of the first Macs, not the first ones. I ain't that old. The when they came out with the Macs with the big backs, and they was like all color. I think they wasn't colors yet, but the Macs with the big backs, right? They didn't have the yeah, I think they did. They had like the different colors. Like you can get like three different colors, and it was kind of clear, like see through. And I went to one of the worst high schools in Philly, so. we never even got to use the computers. Administration was so fearful that we was going to ruin the computers that they stayed in the box. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so backwards. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about that environment stagnating you to the point where you can't elevate. You know what I'm saying? How are we looked at so we looked at as being so bottom tier, so low vibration, right? That we so bad that that the administration would rather keep the computers new and unused than to risk them getting damaged. You know what I mean? It's just so backwards, but it's very indicative of the society that we live in, especially when we talk about the black community, right? And that's one of the things that I want to do is I want to speak, to all Muslims, but in particular my community, where a lot of us are reverts. We're reverts, and we are um, we have unique issues. We have very unique issues, and a lot of that needs to be addressed. But our students of knowledge and our scholars really don't have the time to address them because they teaching a religion. They don't have time to talk about bottom tier stuff, right? Um and I'm not saying that we're bottom tier. I think we definitely, worth it, but it just is what it is, right? So yeah, so not being from this generation and being a little bit older, I really don't understand all of the inner workings. Like, I mean, one of the things I do have going for me is that I would be considered by my peers to be, highly intelligent. I am a scientist by trade, by practice, um, and I have studied. I looked at the text surrounding a lot of this stuff, but um, it's social media, it's social. When you study social things, it's not an exact science. It's practice, right? So yeah, me being new to the practice, I am hoping to. My stream probably is going to be terrible, but just bear with me. Um, so yeah, so not being from this generation, not being being a little bit older. It's kind of like how I felt when I was in college. I went to undergrad. I was the oldest, well, one of the older people in undergrad. Where most people was, between 18 and 21. I was already 22, you know. Uh, and I think I graduated around 23, 24. And I always stuck out, I don't wanna say I always stuck out because that's not always a bad thing, but women like mature men, so it wasn't a bad thing. But me being a Muslim, and even though I wasn't practicing at that time, I mean, I was practicing, but just not well. Um, I wasn't striving how I was striving now. So, um, I was I still managed to not get caught up in what a lot of people go to college for, which is sex and drugs, right? And parties. So, which all of those kind of go hand in hand. So yeah, so one of the other things, so that's yeah, so not being from the generation, kind of kind of on the outside looking in, I see that it's a lot of fitna on here. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people, a lot of arguments and things that men, well, let me not say men, things that, yeah, men of a certain caliber wouldn't indulge in normal life. Me and myself, I will try to avoid these things as much as possible, but I think it's one of the things that's going to be very difficult because if this does work out for me, whenever you on your way up, people, they want to stop your elevation. They want to try to pull you back down. So That's something that I'm very mindful of, and I'm not the most comfortable on camera. You know what I mean? I grew up. When I grew up, I think we didn't have picture phones until I was in, I think, 12th grade year. We had, mm, yeah, around 12th grade year. Cause I remember I had me and my homies was like the first ones with the Sprint Chirp Jones. Everybody had the Nextels, and then Sprint came out with the Chirps. That was like it was a little bit after high school, but it was around that era. Camera phones wasn't really a big thing, so um, I'm not really comfortable speaking on camera because I'm talking to myself right now. You know what I mean? And when I grew up, I was very social. I was more of a people person, so this seems very awkward to me to be sitting here just talking to an audience, even though I'm not talking to an audience. You know what I mean? All right, so that's my first point. I don't want to stick on this too long. My second point, my second fear would be the loss of privacy. Um, when I first started this, when I first considered doing this, I was like, oh no, I want to keep my life private. And then I realized that that was just an excuse because I was thinking like I would start seeing all these YouTubers and I'd be like, I don't even know who this person is. And a lot of other people don't know who this person is either. So, even if I did have a million followers, what's the likelihood of me running into them and them being like, oh my God, you're especially in this niche, an Islamic niche. Um, so I kinda was just I think that was just a part of the fear of me not wanting to fail. I didn't I don't make a habit of failing. I try to complete everything that I start, and I try to excel at it. Um, whether that's school, whether that's my career, um, whatever I do, except sports. Sports I never really had. When I was a kid, I was kind of good, but I didn't have a passion. So a lot of times, I would be playing the sport for fun, and other people would be playing like they playing for recruiters, trying to go to the league. And I was little, had a Napoleon complex, and would always kind of lead into some type of physical altercation. And then when I got to high school, started getting high school age, I wasn't good enough to really compete with, especially being so small. And it kind of changed. My little bubble got burst because it was like in middle school, yeah, I was small, but everybody wasn't that much bigger than me, so it didn't seem so. But then when I went to high school, it seemed like everybody, I guess, had their growth spurt and was twice my size. So, I tried out for the ball team. I made the first cut, but it might have been pity. So yeah, that wasn't. Other than that, I tried to excel in everything. So, um, and I felt like this was one of the things that I might not be able to excel in, but you know, and I felt like it's idle time. You know what I mean? And in Islam, you have to be careful about idle time. And the thing that one of the things that kind of convinced me that it wasn't is because the niche that I'm in is I want to focus on dawah. You know what I mean? I don't want to, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an alim, I'm not a student of knowledge, but I am I can talk about the practical things, what Islam means to me, and how was my experience coming from Christianity to Islam. It's a lot of questions that I was asking at the age of 10. A lot of people, a lot of adults that I meet, Christians, are only starting to just ask at 30, you know? And I think that's because, sometimes life be life, and man, and it ain't nothing you could do about it. So um so that was the fear number two, was just loss of privacy, and actually fearing success. Sometimes you fear your success, potential success, right? Um, and last but not least, this is probably the most important one, is being responsible for my words, my actions as a Muslim on these platforms, right? Sometimes ignorance is not an excuse in Islam. You got to be very conscious about what you say, and you have to speak from a place of knowledge, right? And sometimes when you get into these debates, you might speak with passion, and it's easy to make a mistake, and we gonna be held accountable for anything that we especially if it's innovation. I mean, of course, I'm not going to be giving fatwas or nothing like that, but I'm just talk about my experience. But one of the things about something as simple as saying Allah said, but it's really the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or saying that our Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's something that Allah said. So Allah says, I mean, well, I'll see. I don't want to get into that, but it's a concept in Islam where the religion is nasiha, right? Sincere advice, and um, one thing that the layman Muslim can do is offer sincere advice. Once you start getting into the Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the law said, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, you you on thin ice, and I want to stay away from that. And sometimes just because I'm so passionate about Islam and I love Islam so much, I love my Prophet and I love my Lord, um, it's natural for me to want to say what comes to mind. I try to think of everything that. So before I was really into Islam, I used to listen to music, and my homies would always say everybody. But one of my homies came up with this line was like, "Yo, you got hip hop Tourette's," because every time for every situation I would say a lyric. You know what I'm saying? Mostly like Hove. I was a big fan of Hove. So for every scenario, I always say a bar or something like that to remind me of that. Like, um, I'll just come out of nowhere, like we'll be talking, and it'll be like, I'll be like, she's so self-conscious. She has no idea what she's doing in college. And it'll be relevant to the conversation that we having, right? I don't think a lot of people do it, but I was like kind of OD with it. So that's one thing. That I just have to make sure that I'm very mindful of, right? And I don't want to I don't want to transgress on myself trying to do good for other people. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the risk is unnecessary. Like you don't want to throw yourself in the train for the sake of pushing somebody else from in front of the train, right? I mean, if it comes down to it, you have to do what you have to do, right? Men are to maintain up to woman. So it's our responsibility to protect and provide for women. So if your wife on a train track and your only way you can save her and the baby or just her is to, run and jump and push them out the way and you get hit by the train, then so be it. But you don't want to do it unnecessarily if there's no lives involved. Like, I mean, it is people's souls involved, but you're more responsible for you and your household more than anything else, right? Um, Allah says, save yourself from the hellfire. Um, see, I'm saying I'm doing it already, but I can't remember if it's a law or the Prophet always something, but I think it was a hadith. Save yourself from the hellfire, whose fuel was men and stones, right? I think it's in the Quran, sorry. Whose fuel is men and stones. So your obligation is to save yourself and your family from the hellfire. And then it's to save other people. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things I think about all the time, and matter of fact, before I even say that, this is why I'm gonna go into the positives because I don't want to end on a negative note. Some of the positive things I hope to gain is to practice public speaking, right? But not only that, to practice dawah. One of the my mom is not Muslim. I'm the only Muslim. Well, I'm the only Muslim in my immediate family. I have Muslim cousins, right? But my mom, my grandma, my aunts, they not Muslim. So that's something that I think about all the time is wanting them to accept Islam. But the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion, right? So you can't make anybody, and the law makes Muslims. We don't make Muslims. So, but one of the things that I often think about is the fact that my mom is not Muslim, my grandma not Muslim, and I want to talk to them in a clear way. But my grandma at an age though where even when I try to talk to her, it kind of go over her head. You know, her understanding of Muslims is Farrakhan and Nawah, which which we not on. We're not on that. So even when I talk to her, sometimes I be forgetting that she think that. So, and I'm not the type that prepare conversations and stuff like right now I'm freestyling. I just wrote down these three things just now, and I'm not the type that prepare conversations to go and talk to somebody. I like to talk from my heart. Um, so usually is I use what's in a conversation to make relevant points. And when you're in a moment, sometimes you could forget some of the most important details, which is she don't understand what a Muslim is, right? So, and some of the thing with my grandma is the same, right? Um, so my mom like, and I want to practice not only public speaking, but practice my articulation of Islam, my dawah speech to the point where I'm not being forceful, right? Um, and I hope to be able to talk to them in a way that's receivable. And I think that social media is a way to work on these things, right? Because you get to create community and you get to have feedback. You get to have feedback. You get to interact with people, things of that nature. So that's one thing, which is practicing public speaking. So, and these all kind of go hand in hand. I'm gonna just say all three of them: practicing public speaking, exchange of ideas, and a network of like minds, right? So, um, and a network of like minds is because like being a Muslim man, right? Muslim men kind of are the definition of masculinity, and the conversation right now around masculinity is all from a non-Muslim perspective. So I do want to kind of speak on some of those tenets of Islam that talk about masculinity and give the youth a different perspective. Because right now, red pill is kind of leading the discussion on this, right? And it's kind of toxic for our youth. So we want to kind of step in and set the record straight. If you're a Muslim man, you can't be red pill, right? And there are other people out there that kind of use these red pill talking points, and it confuses the youth. One person is I'm not even gonna say no names, but is somebody that always just a Muslim, and they always putting out these these I can't think of the word right, but these polarizing talking points, um, using it, and I think I will call it the I don't want to say his name because I don't want this video to get striked, but y'all know who I'm talking about. The most hated person on the internet right now. Initials AT, right? Um, I don't want to say, but he kind of has this. It's his methodology. You see a lot of men, you see a lot of YouTubers using that methodology where you use these extreme talking points, and then you try to follow it up with some well put together thoughts to support it, but that also gives you a broad understanding of that concept. So that's something that he'll do. Like he'll say something real like misogynist, but then in the explanation, he gives you the balanced perspective, but it supports the whatever he said. And usually it's something that everybody is like one of those talking points that people use to be misogynist, who use it intentionally to kind of kind of reel you in, and then once he grab your attention, he give you something succinct so that you can be like, oh, dang, you know what? I can't really argue with that. That's right. And it's a tactic. And this person that I'm thinking about uses the same tactic, and I think is very detrimental for Islam. And if you look on the Three Muslims platform, you'll see that they had a conversation with this person, and they were unwilling to come off of these talking points. And um, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I also want to shout out to them, some brothers, Three Muslims, because uh, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and seeing them do it has kind of given me the motivation to try my hand. And if it's not successful, then Allah knows best. Um, so yeah, so then that's another thing. Like now that I'm a father and a husband and all of these different things, I don't really hang out like I used to. I'm not in the hood like I used to. Just because as you get older, you start to realize that some of these places aren't safe. You know what I mean? Um, on my TikTok, trying to elevate, I talked about one of those points where it's like part of growing up is going from the mentality of, oh, I ain't going unless I got the strap, right? But once you get older, you realize that if you need a strap, you ain't going. It's kind of you kind of reverse that. So, you know what I mean? And you gotta think like that from a point of safety, you know what I'm saying? Not from a point of danger. I mean, why would I go if I need that? You know what I'm saying? Because if because the whole thing about it is you more if that's the environment and that's the energy there, then more likely you won't have to use it when at some point, because all of these events that you go to are like this, right? If that's your pattern, you need to switch up the pattern and not go to those places with with that energy, because then you don't have to worry about using it. It's not always about you getting hurt. Sometimes it's about you hurting somebody. And when you actually become a dangerous person, then you start to understand that violence is always should be always a last resort. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just too risky. You know what I'm saying? Like um a lot of people might get caught up in a culture and think that that violence is appealing because of how callously people talk about it. Um, but until you actually been forced to use violence as a tool, um, you probably won't understand how traumatizing it is to be on either side, either being a person that's getting hurt or being a person that has to hurt somebody. You know what I mean? Especially in today's time where that person is likely to be a kid. Likely to be as I get older. These are kids to me. You know what I mean? So I had to remove myself from that environment. And in doing so, and in doing so, um, I don't see my friends as often. And then as you grow up, people do their own thing. You know what I'm saying? You got bills to pay, you got family to care for, and y'all go in different directions. And y'all might be on the same type time, but a lot of times we living from a mentality of survival and not an abundant, and not of abundance, right? And I'm on this mentality of abundance, and I'm trying to get to a point where I'm trying to get to a point where the people that I choose to have in my circle are people that are heading the same direction as me, and using the same means. You know what I'm saying? Like my homies might be going in the same direction than me, but maybe they on a motorcycle and maybe I'm in a paddle boat. You know what I'm saying? I need to link up with them people that's in a paddle boat because we going at the same speed, the same mode of transportation, the same destination. All these different things. They still my homie. It's just that they on a motorcycle right now, and I can't keep up, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? I'm on a motorcycle and they can't keep up. So maybe I need to make a couple stops along the way, and they don't. So we need to learn how to. That's a part of cultivating relationships, is that understanding of what needs to be what needs to be added and what needs to be removed, right? We need to look at these relationships as a cultivation, not just like a one-way thing. You know what I mean? In cultivation, it's a lot of work. You think about agriculture and cultivating, just even like something as simple as just planting a seed. It's not always that. Try to my advice to the youth, right? If you're young, if you I would say if you I don't even want to put an age on it, but if you're young and you just starting out being an entrepreneur, cultivation is going to be a big factor in building the relationships, right? So, and that's going to come later. But one of the things that you can do in the meantime, right? These are things that I'm going to talk about also. One of the things you can do in the meantime is try to grow a plant. Try to grow a few different species of plants, right? You'll doing that will allow you to see how how diverse and sometimes complicated cultivation can be. You know what I mean? Like buy something like a cactus, right? Something that's like you have to like actively work to kill a cactus, right? They can survive under any circumstances. And then buy something like a fica, right? And you'll see how, you know, these things get attacked by parasites and, you know, you have to water them and give them sunlight and you know, it's a lot of things that go into it, and these things will subconsciously subconsciously teach you about cultivation, right? So to the point where once you do get to a point, you need to be able to recognize who's a friend, who's associate, who's enemy, right? And how to use these different relationships. You need to know that first, but ultimately you need to know cultivation. And once you find those people that deserve to be around you or that you deserve to be around, um, this tool will come in handy and how to handle that relationship, right? So that's just one thing that I'm gonna give to you now. Buy go to Home Depot or Lowe's, grab a couple packs of seeds, and three different species. Do some research on them, like you know, look up some plants that you know, a lot of we into a lot of like energy and vibes and stuff like that now. They got plants that you know cater to different vibes that you know, they got something called a money tree. You know, I don't believe in Muslims don't believe in superstitions. But you know, we believe that Allah put a cure down here for everything. So they got plants for depression and anxiety. um, they got plants for you know, if you got a lot of dust in your home, they got plants for that. If you got a lot of spiders, they got plants for that. So so yeah, I would advise you to get into that. And when you do it, also, you know, start small. Don't use gloves. Put your hands in the soil. You know what I mean? Put your hands in the soil. It's like kind of like being grounded. But that's something that's gonna come later too. I don't want to give you too many different things so far, but we have to build up our men. We have to build up our young boys into young men, right? And I think it was Frederick Douglass that said it's easier to raise strong men than to fix broken. No, it's easier to raise strong boys than it is to rebuild broken men, something like that, right? And I believe that wholeheartedly. If we start cultivating our youth properly, then that's good for society. One of the worst things for society are young men with no outlets. There are no outlets, no resources to be financed, because that leads in a lack of resources leads to a lack of mating prospects, and a lack of mating prospects leads to you know, depression and all these things, but more violent men. So you'll see in societies that marriage almost directly correlates, no, does directly correlate with the amount of violence in that society. The more marriage, the less violence. um, and that's because you know, when you become married, you start to understand some of these things about you know, you start to weigh risk a lot differently. Women tend to for their own reasons, they tend to give you advice that's errs on the extreme side of caution, because they need your resources. And especially if you have kids, they need you, you know, not just resources as in money, they need your resources as in time as well. So women are a great addition to a man's life. And we have to raise our boys to be husbands and that's overall better for society. If you look in places where most of the crime is, you'll see that the rate of single parenting is off the chain, especially single mothers, because you'll see that single fathers tend to have the data shows that single fathers tend to raise children and with the same I want to word this properly, but the outcomes of children from single father homes are similar to the outcome of children in homes with both parents. The statistic plummets when you look at children from single parent home. More incarceration, more depression and anxiety, um, more suicide. I mean, the list goes on and on. Less literacy. It just goes on and on. So these are some of the things that I hope to achieve with this platform. And I'm 36 minutes in. I want to end this with the network of like minds. Yeah, that's where I was going with this because I want to build a tribe. I mean, that's what YouTube is for, building a tribe of men who share these goals and these ideas, and we come together and build something because building costs money, right? And we can go further together than we can alone. So we get I do a lot of youth outreach, right? Um and we took like 18 boys upstate New York camping, right? Something that you would never do in the hood, right? Camping seemed like the weirdest thing, but it gave us the opportunity to talk to them about becoming strong Muslim men and controlling their nafs and seeking marriage, but being in a position to seek marriage, right? You can't just be out here, being a bum basically. And you know in the hood, so a lot of these statistics, that's another thing we need to realize. A lot of these statistics, we have to take with a grain of salt, right? Because we only 18% of the population, right? And we not in a lot of these studies, and our culture is a lot different. So when they say that, you know, 3 out of 4 men are not having sex, haven't had sex in the last few years, and that women are sleeping with the top 30% of men is true to a certain extent, but a lot of our young boys are having sex. So that's something that we can't err away from. You know what I'm saying? We can't take that statistic and assume that a lot of these young boys ain't humping. You know what I'm saying? Because they are. They are. And our Muslim and the Muslim young men are as well. So we have to, get in there and really dial home that need for marriage. The marriage makes everything halal, and it is better for our society, right? So yeah, we took them up there, and and even for me, it was my first time seeing a waterfall in person, and it's just something about seeing, you know, being in nature, and you can really see all of the signs that are lost put here for us, right? So, in the laws, and that's one of the concepts that's throughout the Quran a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's like the signs are and it like all of these things in nature, the trees and all of these are signs for those who ponder, right? And that's what the law say. All of these things are signs for those of you who ponder, who contemplate, who think about the who are awe inspired by things like waterfalls and sequoia trees and the animal kingdom. These are all things that move me. You know what I'm saying? Like subhanallah. And we have to give our youth an understanding and appreciation for these things. Um, so that like tribe is, and I didn't do it by myself. I did it with my Muslim brothers. So that's some of the things, and we paid out of pocket, and these are some of the things that we have to get on to. And so, like I said, this channel is between fear and hope. Trying to elevate. Hope you, and if you're trying to elevate, I hope I can help you elevate as well. You know what I mean? Because that's part of it. It's not just me. I'm not just trying to elevate. We all trying to elevate. I will hope. So hope you try and elevate as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.